Good evening, good evening, good evening. Well, we are here to talk about the patriarchy. Allow me to give you a demonstration. There we go. Were you all terrified? I am sure that you were. Did I hear about the ice shooting in Minnesota? Sounds like the weirdest winter sport known to man. Yes, I did, in fact, read about the ice shooting and saw a video from a variety of anglers with regards to the ice shooting in Minnesota. So let's spend a moment on that, shall we? Shall we spend a moment on that? All right, because it's pretty wild. So as you know, ICE, which is the Internal Enforcement of Immigration Law in American, fatal shooting incident involving a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, agent in Minneapolis. Early this morning, January 7, 2026, during a federal immigration enforcement operation in South Minneapolis, an ICE shop officer fatally shot a 37-year-old woman identified as Renee Nicole Good. Boy, you know, if you want a leftist hero, could you name her any better? Probably not. According to the Department of Homeland Security, or DHS, the woman was shot in a defensive action after allegedly attempting to run over law enforcement officers with her vehicle during the confrontation. Witnesses, local officials, including Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey and Governor Tim Walz, and circulating videos dispute this account, describing the incident as unnecessary or avoidable. Hey, I know! Obey the law! And maybe these kinds of things could be, I don't know, avoidable. Stop breaking the law, asshole! That's an old line from Chris Rock. Mayor Frey has rejected the self-defense narrative as unreliable and called for ICE to leave the city. Protests erupted at the scene. What is $100 million of taxpayer money recently revealed to have been dropped through NGOs into Antifa and other hard left, often violent protesters? Don't you love paying taxes so that your rights can be stripped from you? Protests erupted at the scene with clashes between demonstrators and law enforcement. Yeah, none of this is organic. Governor Walz placed the Minnesota National Guard on standby amid rising tensions. The incident occurred amid a broader surge in immigration enforcement operations in the state under the current administration. I would not say that it is funny. I wouldn't say that it is funny, but I will say it's wild. Watching your average mid-wit, self-important, pompous-ass normie encountering government force as if for the very first time. It's like watching a child in the antebellum South on a plantation saying, "Why is Jimbo in chains?" Well, we own him, sir. We own him, kid. I mean, it's just shocking. But this is grown adults. Grown adults saying, whoa, hang on. These agents of the state have weapons? No, not weapons. No, I am going to be on Word War tonight. Yeah, I'm going to be Word War tonight. James, if you can paste in, or I guess I can paste in I can paste it in. So I'm going to be in Word War debate. Oh, it's the world. The world is quite different without the extra L, isn't it? So I'm going to be in there after this show to chat. I'm going to be doing some debates with them, which should be a lot of fun. I miss the planet as a whole. And I'm sure the planet misses me, but hopefully not in the same way that Charlie Kirk didn't get missed. So seeing all these normies, it's like, well, what do you mean they shot the woman in the car? Well, first of all, if the police just, I shouldn't need to say this. Of course, my audience is far too intelligent for this. If the police tell you to stop, I've got a good idea. Stop. No means no, ladies. No, you can't drive on means no, you can't drive on. Do not give the officer through your car a Me Too moment. And people are just shocked. they're shocked, you see, that the enforcement of the law requires weaponry, that the government is armed, and that they'll shoot you if you don't comply. Now, you could argue, of course, that anyone who has a car being driven at them has the right to take out the driver. I have no particular issue with that. A car is a giant deadly weapon, 6,000 pounds of explosive power. So I have no particular issue with somebody shooting somebody who's driving at them in a car if they can't get away. But oh my gosh. Do not be a street lawyer. You do whatever the cop tells you to do. If you disagree with it, get a lawyer, take it up in court. Later, you cannot negotiate at the time. Or, in other words, ladies, just because most men will do what you want them to, if you cry, complain, whine, or are aggressive, does not mean that policemen will. Or police women in particular. Police women, probably because they lack some of the physical intimidation characteristics that men are generally born with. I have my 4 chest hairs, which cause the world to part before me, like I am a heated icebreaker going through a glacier. But police women will shoot more often than policemen, because they can't necessarily aggress in the same way or intimidate in the same way, so they tend to shoot more. That's just what you get. So it is wild to me just watching people be like, "Oh, what do you mean there's a gun involved?" It's like, that's the state, man. That's the government. The government cures any of your disagreements with a little medicine they like to call leadicillin. Lead poisoning. Beat on the neck. So, yeah, just the government, for those of you who don't know, and I'm sure that you guys do, but, in case this gets clipped later, for those of you who don't know, laws are opinions backed by guns. The law is an opinion with a gun. Why is it an opinion? Because UPB has not reached the mainstream as yet. And so it's tradition, it's opinion, it's perspective, it's moral instincts. It ain't moral facts, it ain't moral philosophy, it ain't moral reasoning. The law is an opinion. Very well armed. And I would generally suggest, when you're in a state of violence with regards to the state, comply. Because what the government does, in general, especially if you're white, especially if you're a male, God forbid you're a combo of the two, you live in a whole different legal universe, in which there are actually not just consequences, but escalated consequences, virtually nothing. The government exists to make you do what it wants you to do until you comply or die. I do not know why on earth people, I don't mean to sound like, oh, I don't understand the world. I genuinely don't understand why people are shocked by this. It's not just a good idea, it's the law. If it's the law, you do it or you die. I mean, you will face escalating violence until you comply or die. So, costumes have strange power in this universe, and one of the strange powers they have, it's like putting on a Superman costume and being able to fly. Government workers can put on costumes and have the magical ability to initiate the use of force. I mean, not at will, at least not yet, at least not for a lot of people. But that is the way the cookie crumbles. So, again, I don't know why people are like, oh my God, was it justified? Was it necessary? Was it this? Was it that? You could obey immigration law. That's one possibility. You could take your concerns to court, but that's another possibility. You could not drive dangerously when armed agents of the state are trying to do their job. And to borrow, if not outright steal, a point from Monsieur le Michel Cernovich, Michael Cernovich, you'd only get one angle, right? So from one angle, it looks like she's trying to drive away and she's being shot, even though she's just trying to get away. First of all, you can't get away from the cops. Or at least, it's not legal advice. It's just my understanding. Haven't done a whole bunch of presentations on this kind of thing. If you assault a cop and then you try to run, sometimes you will get shot. Why? Because the cops don't want you driving through a neighborhood, Rodney King style, at high speed with a chase and kids and prams and God knows what, dogs, cats, what, you name it, all over the road. They don't want you blowing through lights. They don't want you panicking and freaking out and then jumping out and running down the alley. Maybe you've got a gun. So if you assault a cop and then you try to run, a lot of times the cop will shoot you. And again, I'm not claiming any deep knowledge of use of force doctrines, but my understanding, based upon a presentation I did many years ago, is that if you assault a cop and then you try to run, it's considered more dangerous to have you out there on the loose in a desperate situation than to shoot you as you're trying to escape from the cop. So, of course, in the one angle, it looks like the agent is shooting, even though the woman is trying to turn away. And that was enough for me. Just personally, that was enough for me. Don't try and get away from the cops. Right. And now you can say, oh, ANCAP them. And we're talking about the normies, right? So don't try and get away from the cops or the law enforcement or ICE or whatever it is, right? Don't do it. Now, from one angle, it looks like the car is turning, it's getting away. And people think that that means that it's okay. Spoiler, to me, it doesn't. Because again, if you are in a giant car and the police are chasing you and you're desperate and your adrenaline is through the max and you can't think straight and you're panicking and fight or flight has kicked in and bad things are going to happen to innocent people, however innocent people may be in the modern world. But from another angle, you can see that there's an agent about to be run down or had to jump aside and so on, right? So clearly, at least for me, from the other side, it looks like either the person is trying to run someone down or is so freaked out that they don't even notice that there's someone kind of in front of them and they, right, this woman, 37-year-old, good, apparently. So if the officers say stop, just stop. If the officers say get out of the car, get out of the car. If they sing Sweet Caroline, you say ba, ba, ba. That's what you do. Do what the cops tell you to do. Your likelihood of being gunned down go down quite a lot, almost infinitely. So people make bad decisions. And this is, of course, has been one of the blowback issues of the left. It's like, we got to have body cameras. Now, these guys, I don't think had body cameras, or at least I haven't seen any footage of that. But it's like, we got to have body cameras so we can see all this racist, horrible policing. And it's like, now everyone gets to see what the cops deal with every day. So you don't hear a lot about completely unjust racist cops anymore because people are seeing what the cops have to deal with every day. Every day. It's getting clearer. All right. So that's the ice shooting. Let me just get to your questions. We can get to the Patriarchy, my back. Somebody asked, what do you think of Murray Rothbard as a person apart from his ideology? You were basically the first big ANCAP YouTubers. Not really. He died quite a while ago, I think. But apart from, I don't really know. He was a professor. He was married to a Christian. He was part of Ayn Rand's inner circle. They had some issues with him being married to a Christian, and he was an elegant writer and a good writer, but never dealt with childhood. So who cares? Right? People who don't deal with childhood are just putting Band-Aids on sucking chest wounds. Our good friend Kay says, yeah. She doesn't sound like that. Yeah. If you drive towards federal agents with your car, you don't expect anything less. It's a tragedy, but she's retarded, and there won't be any riots because she's a white woman. The blacks don't give a fuck. Why is it a tragedy? I'm sorry if I'm missing something. Why? It's like saying Russian roulette. Yeah, right. Is that a tragedy? If people, it's like if I go up and to some big guy, call him an FAG and slap him across the face, and then he punches me, is that a tragedy? I don't know about tragedy. I'm certainly happy to hear the case, though, right? Everyone is saying, oh, she swerved away, but in the moment, nobody knows that. They just know she's driving at you in a car, not following orders, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Well, yes. Well, of course, it's easy. The replay issue is easy, right? I remember, I think it was at 94 when the Blue Jays, who, oh my gosh, I was such a fruity English bastard when I first came to Canada. For the first couple of years, I thought that the Blue Jays icon was a dolphin. I don't know why the Canadian children thought I was rather fey. Oh, I say, home fellows, lovely dolphin logo you've got going on there. What? But I remember in 94, they were playing. I had a terrible sore throat. I was living in a house with 4 gay guys and a lesbian because it was the cheapest place I could get close to the university. It's actually a pretty fun place to live. But I remember watching the game, and it's like, just hit the ball. Like, it's easy, right? Just hit the ball. Just do this. You've got the slow down, instant replay, blah, 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 blah. Well, all you can do is make your decisions in the moment. And it's real easy to armchair quarterback. But if someone is driving at you or driving at one of your colleagues and not following orders, I mean, likelihood is they're going to dump a bunch of bullets into you. Forced doctrine at its finest. Yeah. I've even seen, says our good friend Kay. Now she sounds like someone out of a Kafka novel. I've even seen comments of men white knighting online saying things like, she was a scared woman. They should have more restraint with women, etc. She's driving a car at you, bro. Right. She's just a frightened woman. I have, I've startled my wife from time to time. You ever do this? So just so you know, when you live with women, women as a whole live in a constant low-grade state of about to be murdered, just in general. I like to think that my wife, hopefully a little bit less than the average, but still, right? So let's say, for instance, that your wife is drying her hair. If she is a Greek wife, as mine is, that will take approximately 14 to 27 business days to dry her hair. With me, I stand under a ceiling fan for 14 to 27 seconds, and it's already way too long. But my wife, if she is drying her hair, which involves gale force winds, the kind that you see when you put your kids in those plastic tubes at a fun fair and you feed quarters in and it gives them a hurricane. She does that. It still comes out kind of wet somehow because it's another Neptune dimension in there around her shoulders. But if your wife is drying her hair and God forbid, you have to ask her something or tell her something, you will frighten her, right? You will frighten because she'll be focused on drying her hair, which is akin to a crab being on its back with its vulnerable underbelly exposed to the pecking beaks of the seagulls or something like that. So your wife, your girlfriend, will be focused on drying her hair. And what that means is her guard is down and anything or anyone, even the slightest puff of dust that appears in the background, is about to murder her. Mindy Kaling actually used to do this in a sitcom where something startling would happen. She's like, oh, murderer! So, women, I don't exactly know why, because I'm not a woman. Yeah, moobs, but no woman. Women as a whole, ladies, tell me if I'm wrong. Yeah, tell me if I'm wrong, are constantly afraid of being kidnapped, force-fed drugs, and released in a barrel in Saudi Arabia with some gang tattoo on their forehead. I mean, that's just how women live. You're all about to die. So what I do now and what I've done for many years is if my wife is drying her hair and, again, heaven forbid, I need to get her something, ask her something, or interact with her in any carbon-based way at all, I turn the light on and off so that she knows that I'm coming and the 98% chance axe murderer is gone down to 94, 93%, something like that, right? I mean, it's like if a woman ever wakes up in the middle of the night, for some reason, she immediately will ask, who died? Right? That is, it's just the kind of exciting tenterhooks that women live on that men in our placid sea bass manatee placidity really just can't understand. I have trouble rousing myself to any kind of attention. My wife is not high-strung, but seems to operate in the imminent fight or flight stuff that women generally operate in. So the point is, long story, not so short. So the point is, over the last 24 years of being married, I have startled my wife from time to time. She's never driven over me with a car. or hit me with a saucepan or carving knife, or the carving knife block, or ripped up some faucets and given me a cold tap on the shoulder. Did you feel that? So women don't react when they're scared by trying to drive over law enforcement. All right. Somebody says, oh, yeah, Stefan, hope you can be on World War Debate. Meet up along with all the guest debaters on Rob Noer, Noer X Live. Lovely. Cops was my favorite show as a kid. Oh, yeah. Somebody says, so true about being right 10 years in advance is so annoying. Yeah. Even after I, listening to Molyneux, was right about climate, diversity, and race, my friends just jump on the bandwagon forgetting I was right. Then when I suggest feminism is bad, they say, oh, here you go again with your far-right views. Those far-right views that prove to be right every time, and they can't go around saying, oh, we were wrong about X being a racist, misogynist, etc. You don't even get bragging rights. Yeah. This lady is innocent, but unarmed Ashley Babbitt totally deserved it. Yeah, did I read this right? That the guy who shot Ashley Babbitt, really not a very good James Taylor song, but the guy who shot Ashley Babbitt got huge amounts of money for a daycare in his home. I think anyone dying is tragic, maternal instincts. Yeah, maybe you're right. Sorry, you're not right about your instincts, but yeah, I think that makes sense. What do you think of newer and younger ANCAPs like Eric July? Really? Well, I suppose he's a little younger than me, Steph September, but I don't know anything about him. I think because I'm a mother and know just how much investment is required to bring forth a human, it just always feels like tragedy when it's wasted. Well, what about the effort that it took to bring forward the government agent who came out to just enforce the law? All right, let's see here. The fact how childhood shaped my reality, says someone, was gradual and inner revelation, but as I started searching for deeper answers, I stumbled upon your work and forever grateful. Now listening to your Truth About French Revolution. Thanks for doing what you do, Steph. God bless. Well, thank you. I appreciate that, and you should, everybody here who listens to this, if you're not a donor, freedomain.com/donate, you should set up a subscription on Locals. Honestly, try it for a month, see if you like it. It's well worth it. You can always cancel if you don't want to keep it, charge nothing. And the Truth About the French Revolution is like 12 hours of absolutely corny, absolutely sort of corny, core truths about the French Revolution and what's going on in the world today. Kay says, yeah, I'm pretty jumpy, sleep with a bear mace under my bed. Okay, sorry, you mean mace for spraying bears, not with a medieval mace and a bear. Okay, that makes a bit more sense. Although, to be fair, a medieval mace and a bear, particularly if the bear is able to wield the medieval mace, that would be a safer way to sleep. So it says, correct. We, for some reason, fright easy. It's true, hypervigilance. So it says, my husband whistles to help me know he's coming or that he's home. So I now flick the lights on. What I used to do when I was approaching my wife in some, like from a blind angle, and I don't want to get some shoulder elastic over the shoulder. What I do the Jaws theme. And then she would be frightened. I think it's instinctual, like being afraid of spiders. I think because we would be taken away in raids or something. Yeah, listen, I'm not criticizing women. Like, all that women do is beautiful. I mean, combined with the state, it's terrible, but the same is true of men. All that women do is beautiful. I love you all to death, but it is something that I have noticed. Yeah, and I think you're right, Kay, as well. I have a question. Happy to type out or discuss. You can actually, if you're an X, you can call in. There's no reason to get sinister. Whatever, right? Somebody says, regarding my wife, she has a big heart and takes in strays, not animals, people. She wants to host a coworker who is living in their car in our house temporarily. I have opposed this. Interesting. Well, why doesn't she have children? See, women are going to mother someone. You either give them their own children or they mother immigrants and criminals. This doesn't seem to be any other option, sadly. All right, so Leaf, I think you should have fallen a couple of months ago, but you're still here. If you wanted to unmute, I'm happy to hear your questions, as will everybody else. Going once, I can't hear you. Some tick mark went away, but you still appear to be muted. Going once, going twice. Why is it? Honestly, just at this point, call in on a speakerphone. I don't care. I don't know why it is so hard for people to.
I think I fixed it.
There we go. All right.
Excellent. Thank you for having me on, Stefan.
Welcome.
So that's my question, and I guess I'll just very
Hang
briefly
on.
give you my
When you say
concern.
that's my question,
Yep.
what is your question?
Oh, my question is this an immoral choice, not offering this person a place to stay for, let's say, a couple weeks?
Okay, so give me the background. Why are you working with homeless people?
That's a great way to phrase the question. So my wife takes in strays. She generally feels bad for people. There's someone at her work that is has become, at least temporarily homeless. It is a male. He's in his 30s. He's going through a divorce and he's living in his car. And my response to my wife was, okay, so the number one person he has to turn to is a coworker. He's getting divorced and he didn't arrange for his own accommodations. He's working, so he clearly has enough money to at least get a temporary apartment. So clearly, this person isn't making rational decisions. They're probably in a negative mental state. And I don't think my wife or I need that in our lives right now when we're just starting now to try to have children. Things are going well for us. So we have abundance that we could share. But I think that we should be selective and protective about our home and who we bring into our lives. And so that's my concern.
What decade of life are you in?
I'm 39 and my wife is in her early 30s.
Okay. And you're just starting to try to have kids. How long have you been married?
We've been married for almost 1 year.
Okay. And how long have you been together?
In total, we've been together for 3.5 years. So we dated for 2 years, 2.5 years. I said, this person's a good match for me. I proposed, we tied the knot. We then purchased a house together. And now that like the house is settled, she's almost 33. So, clock's ticking. I'm at a place in my career now where I feel as though I have enough income to responsibly support kids. And so, uh, she's off birth control now. We've just started trying.
Okay. Well, best of luck to you. I appreciate that. I would probably nag and chip away a bit at waiting for a couple of years in your late 30s even think about starting to become a father, because you ain't going to be a dad till you're in your 40s, right?
That's correct. I think I definitely had a slow start in terms of reaching the emotional maturity level, or at least the confidence level where I felt as though uh, I would have the means to provide for a kid. Right now I'm working a very lucrative tech job. My income's very solid, but that wasn't always the case early on in my career, etc.
Okay. So tell me a little bit about, obviously don't go into identifying details, but tell me a little bit about this guy that she works with who's living out of his car.
It's someone that she works with. I think she started at this job only maybe 6 months ago, so she's probably only known him for about 6 months. And this isn't the first person that she has kind of felt the need to take care of. I mean, this is something that we encountered throughout our relationship, and it was actually one of my only reservations. I would have married her much sooner if it wasn't for this, I think, tendency I noticed in her to be taken advantage of by people that weren't willing to help themselves, and so would lean on her for help because she's kind of an easy mark. And I'm wondering if this is another one of those situations. That's my instinct.
And why is this guy out of couches? Why does he not have anyone in his life who's known him for a long time who's willing to put him up?
That was my question. I mean, basically verbatim. that I gave to her. I said, "Listen, like, you're his coworker, but he doesn't have family, he doesn't have parents, he doesn't have siblings, he doesn't have male friends, and the fact that he's going through a divorce, but he's suddenly living in his car indicates it probably was not an amicable divorce, which indicates to me that perhaps he's got communication issues or he's got some kind of a toxic relationship there, and there's a potential for spillover."
Well, and the other thing too is that it's sort of like communism. You can vote your way in, but you're going to have to shoot your way out. So what if he comes in, moves in, and doesn't want to move out?
Another one of my concerns. Um, yeah, and in certain states in this country, tenants' rights are much stronger than landlords' rights. Not that this would be a tenant-landlord relationship, but, it's possible that he could spin it that way if he was clever enough.
Well, but even if it's nothing like that, what if he just says, "Hey man, I just need another couple of days. Hey man, I just need another, I've got something sorted out. Oh, it fell through." And what if he just strings you along?
That's another one of my fears, and this is why I basically said to her, like, "Listen, do you wanna talk about this again?" We talked about it, and I voiced my concerns, and she said, "Okay." She agreed. Um, and so I said, "Okay, that's great. No protestations once, we've come to a consensus." But I still find myself questioning, like, am I being because I'm in such abundance right now, and I have the opportunity to help someone, it's it's difficult for me to say no sometimes in these type of circumstances,
Sure.
but I feel as though I am making the right decision, keeping potential toxicity and risk, out of our household and our relationship.
Have you met this guy?
I don't even know the guy. I haven't even met the guy, which was, like, another one of my top concerns.
Your wife wanted to bring a guy into your house that you've never met?
Yeah, which is another reason why I said, if this was a mutual friend that we both had that was going through a hard time that we had vetted, that we know, we have a prior relationship with, um, then that would be probably a different situation. But this is a guy I've never even met. All I know about him is that he's living in his car and that, some people just have bad fortune, but some people have poor planning skills and potentially other issues. And I think there's enough evidence to indicate that there's a high probability that he may have some pathologies which have led him to this point.
It is not an ideal situation, of course, to be in your 30s and have no place to live. And that is a whole bunch of, everybody who's homeless has burned through every one of their relationships to end up on the street. There's everybody who knows them best wants to have absolutely nothing to do with them to the point where they're willing to have them live on the street. So that's all you know about the homeless people, is that friends, family, extended relatives, you name it, everyone has evaluated them and said, I'd rather have this guy living on the street than crashing on my couch. And I tend to go with other people's opinions and perspectives when I have no direct experience of my own. And this is sort of one of the things in marriages where men are right more than women. And there are certainly times when women are right more than men. So tell me about the last formal event you went to, like suit and tie.
Uh, Last suit and tie might have been a work gala.
Okay, so if you'd have said to your wife, you show up in a pair of gym shorts and a workout shirt, and you said, I'm ready to go, what would your wife say?
She would, if it, she'd laugh at me and then she'd send me right back into the bedroom to change.
Would she, in fact, at some point, potentially, theoretically, nothing to do with me or anything, but would she at some point actually just find it easier to lay your clothes out for you and say, this is what you're wearing?
I mean, she already does that, so
Oh,
yes.
fantastic. Okay. So when it comes to grooming, to presentation, to just a wide variety of things, your wife makes the final decisions, right? And you just put on whatever the hell she hands you, right?
Like 99% of the time.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
So I don't know if you have this experience too. I've had this as a husband for decades now. Apparently, there are these things. It's a tripartite thing. There are new. Apparently, they've made new ones of these in the past 30 or 40 years. New wallets, new belts, new shoes. Have you heard of these things?
Are you talking about like Ridge wallets?
Anything that's not your old hung together with duct tape
Oh, yes.
and fairy spit. Apparently, they make new ones. Have you? I mean, I've not heard of these because I don't see these things. But have you heard of new wallets, belts, and shoes?
Apparently, they have stores that sell them. I don't know.
I hear rumors. It
Wild.
sounds fantastical to me. It really. I mean, there's like, why not just say unicorns and dragons? So apparently, there are these stores that you can buy a new wallet. But here's the shitty thing about it, man. You have to take money from your old wallet, take it out, and hand it over to people in order to get your new wallet. Oh, God.
Yeah, that's wild. I would never do that.
Have you, I mean, when was the last time you had to break in a new pair of shoes?
Well,
The
my wife
cruel
buys
shoes.
she buys my shoes, and I always say, "How much do these cost?" Every
No,
single
no,
time.
don't
I'm like,
ask. What are you,
"What?"
insane? Do not ask these questions. It will simply hurt you and there will be no benefit.
Yeah, I mean,
When
it's
have you
true.
ever asked your wife what the price of something is and been happy with the result?
Never. I mean, she doesn't seem to see prices. Like, she wanted to get a new bed, and we got this Tempur-Pedic mattress, and the guy there's like, "Alright, so it's gonna be $8,000," and, like, I died a little inside, and she didn't even notice,
You
and
can't
we
put a price on good sleep. Actually, that is
Yep.
kind of true. A good mattress can be beneficial, but yeah, my wife handles a lot of the bills, and I mean, there's business bills, accounting bills, and I'm like, nope, don't tell me. I'm just going to go back to work. I do not want to know. Because apparently, again, new belts. Here's the problem. So with a belt that I've had, it's got that one chewed out. Looks like it's given birth to quintuplets. It's got that one chewed out hole where the peg goes through. That's comfortable, man. I just feel it. I know it's the right belt loop. It's the right belt hole. Whatever new belt, I'm either going to be like Jaden Smith, like with my pants hanging around my knees, like thug style, or basically I'm going to have a boa constrictor strangling my entire midriff. I'm going to be turned into the figure 8 and crying slowly. So I'm not a big fan, but again, I understand that if you're holding it together with duct tape, it might be time for a new one, a new wallet, new shoes. Other things I will just hang on to like grim. I mean, hey, I may be able to fit into that one day again in the future. So your wife is right about certain things.
Yeah.
My wife is a Christmas fanatic. It's beautiful. And she buys all of these little glowy things that everywhere you turn, it's like a little elf forest of happy Tinkerbell Christmas joy juice. It's beautiful. We have more Christmas decorations than you could sprinkle on a Macy's parade. It's lovely. So I come home and she's done all this stuff and it's beautiful. Come home, it's just absolutely, absolutely lovely. She's totally right about that. Around Christmas when I was a single bachelor, I might throw a snowball at the wall. That's about it.
Mhm.
And she does all of this stuff. It's beautiful. And she's right about it. So, it's important to defer to your wife about things that she's right about. So, but it's also important for your wife to defer to you about things that you're right about, such as do not bring twitchy divorcees into the house who've been rejected by everybody else who's conceivably known them. Because here's the thing. You don't end up living in your car because nobody's willing to put you up. You end up living in your car because nobody's willing to put you up or lend you $1,000. Now, if you've made it into your 30s and you don't have anyone in your life who'll tide you over until next month, well, you've taken some wrong turns at Albuquerque, my friend. And
Yeah, man.
that is also so if you want to help this guy, of course, you could just give him, I had a woman, I don't think the call has gone out yet, but she was a young woman and she was facing some financial hardship. So I did what I do from time to time and I just sent her some rent money. So, if you want to help him out, you can lend him the money if you want. But of course, lending people ties you to them and gives them power
Yes.
over you. And that may not be wise. It's hard to know. But yeah, I would say that if you don't want to lend them any money, then sometimes people just have to learn some bitter lessons. This is the other thing, that women will often prevent people from hitting bottom so that they learn their damn lessons. Maybe this guy was abusive. Maybe he was mean. Maybe he was exploitive. Maybe he did drugs. Maybe he just needs to hit bottom in order to learn and to change. And women will very much want to be that soft place to land so that people never bounce. Like if you drop your rubber ball on the concrete, bounces up. Yay! But if you drop your rubber ball over the Mariana Trench, it spends an hour sinking down to the bottom, and it just never bounces. It just sinks down and goes into the mud and gook and ook at the bottom. So women, stand back, let the man handle stuff, right? So my sort of analogy, and you could use this in any way that you want, and then I'll shut up and let you get your thoughts in. But for me, it goes something like this. I want to think of our ancestors who were in wherever. Let's say Africa. Africa's too common. They're in the steppes. They're in the northern wilderness or whatever it is, right? And you're farmers, you've got livestock, and then one day in February, it's cold as a witch's tit out there, and you find on the front door of your cottage a shivering little bundle of fur. It's a wolf cub, right?
Yeah.
And you stand there, and of course the wolves take your livestock when they get bigger. So you stand there with your wife. What does she say?
Yeah. She says, "Oh, it's so adorable. We need to take care of this."
Oh, it's so cold. Let's bring it in. Let's feed it. Let's take care of it. It's so blah, 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 right? And what do you say?
I say, "Well, if we raise this thing, it's going to become a problem in a year, 2 years."
Well, you say it's a lot easier to kill it when it's small.
Yeah, that's
Thank God it didn't come here when it was bigger. Whack, 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 whack. Hey, look at that. I have a new wallet. So
yeah,
this is the difference between women see small, cute things and say, oh, take care of it, make it bigger. If they're dangerous, men say, well, thank God we found it when it was small. I mean, would you rather take on a wolf pack or come across a den of baby wolves and a club?
Yeah.
And I know for women it seems insane. For men it seems insane. We need this, mix and match. Sometimes men can be too harsh to their own children and they need to be softened up by women. And sometimes women are way too harsh to wolf cubs or lion cubs. Can you imagine? Would you rather take on a fully grown 1,200-pound lion or take out a 20-pound baby mewing lion? Well, I'd much rather take out the baby mewing lion. Thank you very much. Even though it's cute.
Yeah, it is cute.
Right? So that is the difference between men and women, is that men see the danger in the future from the present, and women see the cuteness in the present and not the danger of the future. So she is, and the big question for everyone who wants to help others, and this is a big question for your wife, it's a question I ask myself probably every second day. I do a lot sort of behind the scenes to try and help people. So what I do is I say, okay, do I want to help this person because I genuinely think I know what's best for them, understand the situation well enough, and are acting in a way that is genuinely going to benefit them in the long run? Or am I just uncomfortable at seeing suffering and want to make myself feel better by alleviating the suffering? Does that make sense?
Yes, I think that's the core of it, actually. Because I wonder if for her, she just feels that feeling of pain because she's such an empathetic person, or maybe empathy isn't the right term, but
it's
sympathy.
Not. No, because she's empathetic. Sorry to interrupt. She's empathetic to the suffering within herself.
Yes.
That she sees in the other person. It's not actually empathetic or helpful to the other person. It's just, ooh, I really don't like seeing that.
Yes, correct. And she wants to make that pain go away. And so she says, well, we got a big house with a lot of guest rooms. I can solve this problem easily. But she's not thinking about the externalities.
Well, is she thinking about what's best for the other person? And this is not just a female thing. We all have that issue, which is, am I acting in a way that is objectively and rationally the best for the other person, or am I uncomfortable by their suffering and want to alleviate my discomfort by giving them resources, right? And this is the single mother thing, right? So there's, some single mother, the guy impregnated her, they had unprotected sex, he runs off and so on, and she's crying and she's got her baby, and she wants resources, and of course she'll spin a tale, right? I mean, women are fantastic. Like, there's a reason why female novelists tend to be more popular than male novelists, because women are pretty good at spinning tales, because men generally get a lot of resources by having to tell the truth, right? And women sometimes will get resources by not being quite so strict with the old factoids. And so the woman is like, oh, but he left me and there was no sign, and he promised he would love me forever, right? He said he would love me and then he came, and all of that. And so we feel bad. You say, okay, well, what is best for the world, for society as a whole? Is it to prevent the suffering of every individual? Nope. Absolutely not. It is absolutely catastrophic for society to work to try and prevent the suffering of every individual. That's fine within your own family, in your own clan, your own tribe, your own children. Yeah, you want to alleviate the suffering of your children, every single one of them, absolutely. But those instincts parlayed out there into society is like a sow lying on its back and breastfeeding the wolf cubs. They're just going to grow up and eat the sow. So you have to really, really, really be strict with that kind of stuff and say, am I going to help society? Am I looking to alleviate my own discomfort, or am I looking to do something genuinely moral? And it's very tough. Men see this more clearly than women, although there's lots of stuff that women see more clearly. Men absolutely see he's going to have to suffer, right? You know the old thing. I'm sure this happened in your family when you were growing up. It'll happen between you and your wife. So let's say you've got a strapping young boy. He's 6 or 7 years old. Sorry, he's 6 or 7 years old. And he's going to ride a bike. He's going to ride a bike. And he's riding a bike and he's wobbling. And what does your wife want to do?
Yeah, she wants to stabilize him.
He's got to be in a suit of armor and he's got to be riding on marshmallows and right in zero gravity, right? And what are you going to say to her?
Yeah, he's got to learn to fall.
Yeah. You got to let him fail. He's got to fall. He's got to cry. He's got to hurt. How is he going to learn to deal with adversity or pain or risk or danger? Or right? This bubble wrapping kids has given people with the survival instincts of your average soap dish these days. So, and that is a tension. Look, sometimes men can be too callous in their children's suffering, and they shouldn't let their children climb that high in the tree, because if they fall down, they'll break their arm, which was often a death sentence in the past, right? Yeah. So sometimes women's caution is absolutely necessary, and sometimes men's libertarianism and consequentialism is absolutely important, and we just need that negotiation. But of course, the government has taken away that negotiation by taking all the resources from men and giving it to women. And women, of course, will fall prey to a sob story of victimization every single day of the week and twice on Sundays. What that means is that men who are too proud to play victims lose out, and men who have no self-respect and women who are willing to play victims will get all the resources in the known universe, which causes society to fucking implode. But anyway, all right. So that's what your wife is doing. No, I'm just kidding, right? But yeah, so it is just it's just important. I remember when I was a kid, we had problems with mice, so I would get the mouse traps, and I would put the mice traps out, and I would catch mice. And my mother could not look at them, could not do anything with them. So what did I do? Well, I took the mice out and I put it in 3 plastic bags, swung it against the wall until it was dead, and threw it in the garbage. I did. It's not like that's fun. I don't like to do it, but it's necessary to do. Whereas my mother couldn't do it. And that's not that unusual. And that's totally fine. Women and men have developed in different ways. But, and the fact, we also owe the domestication of animals, I think, largely to women. Because sometimes you bring that wolf pup in and he becomes a dog that guards you. And that's a good thing, right? So because men would just kill everything. we don't end up with any domesticated animals. So I think that's a plus. But yeah, so it's a really good conversation to have. Because right now, of course, the entire world is parading its suffering, some real, some not so real, in front of women, and women are like, "Open the borders, give everyone everything," and it's like, this is the issue which I write about in my novel, The Future, which is it's winter, and you only have enough food for your family, and you told your neighbors that they needed to work harder to get food for the winter, and your neighbors are pounding on your door with their 6 kids because they don't have enough food. And what does your wife want to do?
Yeah, she wants to let them in.
Let them in!
And then we all die.
And what do you want to do? What do you have to do?
Yeah, we want to protect our family.
Yeah, can't do it.
Because, that's
they might
who
die,
we accounted for.
They die or we all die.
Yeah. I mean, I think This I needed to hear this. I don't know why this in particular has been bothering me so much, because I've said no to her about this before. I think that this one in particular has been bothering me because by saying no to her, I'm effectively saying yes to our future family. That by saying no to her, I'm basically saying we don't have space to bring someone in, and we don't have space to bring someone in because we are about to start building our own family. And and that means I need to commit to it.
Well, listen, honestly, just knock her up. You don't need
Yeah,
a lot of philosophy. Once women get pregnant, their focus shifts to their own family and they don't try and get virtue points from strangers.
heard. I appreciate this a lot, Stefan. Thank you for speaking with me.
You're very
And
welcome. Thank you for a great question and comment. Let's
and
get back to your. I don't think we're going to get to the patriarchy tonight. It's all right. It survived one day without us analyzing it, but we will get to that. All right. James says an owlbear summoning scroll. Oh, regarding the mace and the bear. Nerd. I shouldn't say that. I introduced him to D&D. All right. They should at least mother foster children. They actually need it. Foster children are tricky, though. Very tricky, right? All right. Somebody says, Stefan, appreciate you fighting your way back onto these platforms that exiled you and many other of the OGs in this space. You didn't have to, but you have. God bless her. Thank you very much. There is no StreamYard. So, oh yeah, Kay says, my advice, don't do it. It's really hard to get people out of your house. Well, I know a little bit about that backstory, and I can't help but bow to her expertise. He'll almost certainly become a big problem. Somebody says, yep, agree. A few weeks could potentially turn into litigation and a nightmare that could last years. Help in other ways if you really want, but do not let people into your home. It's a whole lot easier to not add food coloring to your water than it is to try and take it out, right? Somebody says the Minneapolis leftists' feeling of immunity from police violence is understandable. Leftists are immune from violence from Minneapolis police after the 2020 Summer of George. Georg? All right. I'll get to you in a sec, Adam. I just want to see if there's anything else. Somebody says, don't judge him about his situation. I had to live in my car during my divorce and I was making $100,000. Courts can rip you off. Give him some cash if he needs it. Yeah, I agree with you, Quantum. I can't possibly pass any judgment. Maybe the woman was really abusive and lied about him to the cops, so he might be, but even then he chose to marry her and all of that. So women who even love dogs, as soon as they have a baby, they get rid of the dog. Yeah. If women don't have their own children, they will make children out of everything. Cats, dogs, homeless, and yeah. I'm childless and this is true. Yeah. All right. Let me just get to your... Oh yeah, it's like the other thing. As a man, I'm not a skinny guy. I'm not fat. I'm not a skinny guy. I've got a tiny bit of muffin top. Helps keep my face looking youthful. And my muffin top is fine until one damn thing happens. My wife has this incredibly destructive habit of washing my jeans. Nothing makes you feel more slender than jeans that are well worn. Nothing makes you feel more like you're a Zeppelin in a condom than putting on freshly washed jeans, and God help you if they're cold. You will feel like you're about to give birth, but never will. Pillsbury Doughboy incoming, actually barely coming in to the pants. They are vice tubes on your thighs. All right. That call is a premium show. Why We Don't Judge Mothers call-in show at premium.freedomain.com. Yes, that was a really good show. Really good show. A baby wolf. Yeah, I'm raising it to be my personal bodyguard. Yeah. Good luck with that and a pit bull, right? Kay says, yeah, there's no way I could kill a baby animal. That's a man's job. Well, I would agree with you, and I'm not putting you in this category, but a lot of women do kill baby animals. They're called fetuses. Somebody says Kay says, after a few people weaponize your empathy against you, you don't want to help anyone ever again. Yeah, for sure. All right. Is libertarianism completely academic now, excluding yours truly? I don't know what that means, but Adam, I really feel like you should have been the first caller. What is on your mind? If you want to unmute, I know there's a little bit of a delay, so that's no problem. It's a no worries. Said I remember when we used to sit in the government yards in Trenchtown. Observing the hypocrites as they would mingle with the good people we knew. All right, Adam, are you with me?
Hello, can you
Hello.
hear me?
Yeah, you're
Hello?
on.
Adam here speaking.
Yes. What's on your mind?
Wow, fun. Let's get on the show. Oh, I bet them people do your bloody head in as well. Them stupid people. I'm sure they wind you up on purpose. I'm sure these people wind you up on purpose.
Yeah, it could be. What's on your mind?
Well, a lot of things. First of all, I live in England, which is a small island. Small island, England is. And what's going on in the world, it only takes one thermonuclear warhead or one of them nuclear weapons to destroy us. Even under our coast, the tidal wave will be massive. England will be gone. England will be gone. Putin, the American president just took over Venezuela. I can't believe he just took that. He just took it like a bullet. That's mine. He just took it.
Okay, hang on. Sorry, you're talking about the arrest of Nicolas Maduro?
No. What arrest of Nicholas? Oh, yes.
Okay. Why do you say that?
Oh, not
Hang
even
on,
that. That's
hang
old
on. So
news
no, hang
now.
on. It's my show.
Yeah.
So why do you say that they just took over Venezuela?
I don't know. It happened overnight, didn't it? Then on our news, you have CNN, Fox News, our BBC News and Sky News. Donald Trump, he sent all the black ops, all the military top men there. I don't know what the collateral damage was. But he took over Venezuela just overnight. That's awesome. Russia is trying to take over Ukraine. That's been months and months and months and months and months. But President of the United States of America is the most powerful man in the world. Most powerful man in the world.
Are you drunk or high? You sound very slurred.
Oh no, it's just a Wi-Fi connection.
Okay. So why did what if any, what would you say would be the justifications for snatching Maduro out
I
of
don't know. There must
Maduro,
be a
sorry.
reason. Must be a reason to send the top of the tops, black ops, the helicopter.
Okay, sorry. So bringing up something and not having any clue about it is not making for much of a quality show. Is there a more specific question that I could help you with today?
What, the tall greys, the tall whites,
I'm sorry, the what?
the tall greys,
The Torglanes?
tall whites, the
Torglanes?
what?
I don't follow that. Can you spell it?
Greys, the tall greys. You know the tall greys, Area 51. Or the tall greys and Nordex.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure that's English, but it doesn't seem to be. So, yeah, sorry. I mean, you're going to have to enunciate a little bit. I mean, I grew up in England, so I'm fairly familiar with the British accent. Maybe that was just me, but I couldn't really understand what he was saying. A bit odd, isn't it? And so, the tall greys? Well, what could anyone want to guess? What did he have there? What did he have there? I mean, it's either somebody with a thick British accent or you're having a stroke. I mean, you need subtitles on a lot of British movies. You ever see Snatch? Nobody has, because nobody knows what the hell is going on prior to subtitles. Bloody hell! What? What a thing you would get a Catholic. You got a Catholic. That's what I call. Wow. Okay, don't fax me, bro. Don't make fax noises. It was not me. Oh, yeah, okay, good. I wasn't sure. I don't think it's the Wi-Fi. Was he drunk? Yeah, I don't really spend much time around drunk people. So, but interesting that he would call in saying, some people just wind you up. I don't know any inside the minutes. Sorry, I don't know why I went vaguely Australian there. I think I just deported myself for breaking rules. Sounded like a thick lager accent. Well, maybe. A drunk high immigrant in Ireland. No, it wasn't a drunk high immigrant in Ireland. That would be more Somali. All right. Well, maybe we can piece it together afterwards. All right. So I talked about this sort of recently, but in general, what the U.S. did is in accordance with law, right? It's in accordance with law. So they have indictments, they have arrest warrants and so on, and they applied for, as far as I understand it, got an exemption for head of state exclusions and so on. So it is, in general, I try, and Lord knows I'm on the fuzzy edge of this surf wave from time to time, but I do try as a whole to not talk about stuff where I just don't have any idea about things. So Venezuela under Maduro was labeled a narco state, conspiring with cartels to flood the U.S. with cocaine. So intervention is justified as self-defense against threat to the U.S. public health and security, similar to anti-drug operations in Colombia or Mexico. See, as white Europeans withdraw from South and Central America, or I guess all the way up to North America for Mexico, it's reverting back to its original state, which is a pretty violent kind of country, like all the Aztecs and Mayans and so on, right? So right now, there are more deaths from opioids and cocaine in America than the entire Vietnam War. Like, remember all these Vietnam War movies that were put together because Vietnam was anti-communist, so you've got to show just how horrible it is to kill communists. It's the worst thing known to man. It's just the way that goes. So, it's self-defense for the country as a whole. I don't believe the Venezuela holds the world's largest proven oil reserves, and Venezuela just went and stole under Maduro. They stole all of the American infrastructure and companies and equipment and all of that. So they just stole everything. So Maduro's alliance with Russia and China and Iran gives all of that oil to adversarial powers. And I got to just tell you, I'll do a whole rant or show about this at some point. Fumbling an alliance with Russia post-communism was just about the worst thing that happened to the West outside of open borders. They should have absolutely had an ally with Russia post-communism, but of course, because communists control so much of the West, they could only portray a post-communist Russia as the greatest evil known to man, God and the devil, but it was just absolutely appalling. And for heaven's sakes, Putin is not trying to take over Ukraine. Putin is not trying to take over Ukraine. The Western allies completely broke their word, right? So they went after the fall of communism, particularly they said, we want to reunite East and West Germany. And Russia said, oh, fine. Okay, they could have stopped it, right? And they said, okay, fine, but you can't move NATO east at all. And they just kept moving it east and kept moving it east. And then there's all these biolabs and Nazis and oppression of the Russians in Ukraine. Then this 2014 color revolution where the legitimate government's kind of overthrown by the West. It's just terrible all around. Terrible all around. Now, of course, what is it? England and is it France? Or are they sending tens of thousands of troops? It's all going to be white guys, all going to be going through the usual grinder mill and all of that sort of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, if America was that keen on oil, they would just drill in Alaska or other places, right? So I don't think that would be, I mean, they might give the oil fields back to the companies that actually develop them, right? Because you know what happens. You go to some third world asshole country, you develop a bunch of resources, and then the sophists and the populists whip up the general population. Oh, they're stealing from you. And then they just steal all of this stuff and all of that. So it's just denationalizing. That's all. Just, going to take your fucking bike back from the guy who stole it. Also, Venezuela's crisis, hyperinflation, food shortages, and about 7 million refugees since 2014. Maduro's 2018 and 2024 elections were deemed fraudulent by the US and the OAS. So they're liberating Venezuelans from tyrannical authoritarianism, just like post-World War II reconstructions. lots of complicated arguments about all of that. All right. Let's do another. Oh, sorry. We've got Mr. A. If you wanted to, hopefully not troll, hopefully not have too thick an accent. If you would like to unmute. Oh, did he come? Did he go? He came, he left, he conquered. All right. I think, I don't think we're going to bring Adam back in. And it's actually kind of rude, to ask. All right. Let's see. Am I supposed to be on that debate on X right now? Yeah, I told them I'd do my show, and then you guys are more important. The most important. You guys are most important. Yeah, I think our transcription service will just outpit what with that question. Right. All right. Just me, or is audio a little low?
Am I talking?
Hello.
Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
Am I? I just hit the microphone button on accident. I'm sorry. I'm just listening.
No, it's fine. If you don't want to talk, that's no problem. But yes, you are talking.
I got nothing interesting to say, and I'm trying to do a British accent because I don't want my actual voice on the internet because I'm Adolf Schiffler.
All right. Well, then if you want to just drop off.
Ever since 2011.
Well, thank you. I appreciate such a long-term listener. I hope you've gotten good value over the decade and a half.
Oh, absolutely. I'm glad. I'm sad that they took all those great videos off YouTube, like the slavery one. You were the first person to actually go there with all that information that, you're the first one to say that there were white slaves, basically. That's the first time I've ever heard it. And then
there were white slaves in the Ottoman Empire after black slaves were liberated in America. So, and I appreciate that. So just for those of you who wanted, the videos aren't gone from the internet. So just go to fdrpodcasts.com, FDR, Free Domain Radio, fdrpodcast.com, do a search and click on the show. Below will be a list of where the videos are. And just about everything is back there as a whole. All right.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Somebody says, it would be interesting to hear you debate Joel Skousen, is that Skousen, who has been warning of Russia as an existential threat for decades, and he believes the fall was a cover. Even a close friend of mine dated a Russian fighter pilot who said that all the KGB was still in Russia. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Great to see you live from New York. Some folks like to get away. All right, I confirm it's a bit low. Okay, well, I'll just... all right. Tell them the Aussies are about to beat England in the Ashes 4-1. Is that cricket? What? All right. Okay, let's do one more call air. I think we've talked to this fellow before. Baco.
How are you doing? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you just fine. How you doing?
Good. I just wanted to discuss briefly with you and your thoughts on the general concept of with these Axis sort of allies forming with Russia, Iran, Venezuela, China, and them sort of encroaching on the globe, and then the U.S.'s response. And then you were talking about like drug overdoses and how more men dying than the Vietnam War. I just wanted to talk about do you believe that nations sort of either shrink or grow? Do you think this stagnation we've been sitting in sort of since World War II with a little bit of movement, do you think that's natural? And do you think we're reaching this breaking point where, again, you have the United States sort of expanding its own borders and sort of our Axis enemies trying to do the same?
Can you just boil that question down? I just missed that end part.
Do nations have to expand and contract? Is there such a thing as stagnant?
Well, it's not the nation that determines its stagnation or contraction. It's the size of the government. So the more force that you use in your society, the more you're going to stagnate.
Okay.
Right? So if governments forced men and women to get married, then there wouldn't be much of a market for dating, right? Because force would displace all of that. So the only way that you get win-win interactions is in the absence of force. So if two people are voluntarily exchanging goods and services, right? So somebody has a hamburger and somebody has $5, right? So if the guy with the hamburger wants the $5 more than he wants the hamburger, he'll take it. And if the guy wants the hamburger more than he wants the $5, he'll give the $5. So both people end up better off. I mean, there may be buyer's remorse or something down the road, but in the moment of transaction, if it's voluntary, both parties are only engaging in that transaction, or to put it another way, that transaction only occurs because both people are better off in their minds as a result of that transaction. Is that fair to say?
Sure. Yeah. I
But
can
that's
believe in.
only if it's voluntary. The moment somebody pulls out a gun or a knife, then there is a net unhappiness. Right. So if some guy is on the street, he's in an alley, he's late at night, you're walking down, and he says, "Spare a shekel for an old ex-leper?" Or he says, "Hey man, I'm really hungry. Can you give me $10?" Right? Now you can give him $10. He's happy. He's got the $10. You feel good for giving him the $10. Win-win. Right? But the moment he pulls out a gun and says, "Give me your wallet, or I'll shoot you," then you give him your wallet, but you're unhappy because you were forced. And so he's got, +3 happiness. You've got -10 happiness because now you're traumatized and you've got to go to the police. You lose dozens of hours or more trying to get this guy caught. And then you've got to look over your shoulder whenever you go down the alley or down the street. So it's a massive net negative. So stagnation occurs when force is substituted for voluntary interactions. Voluntary interactions are always win-win. Force is always win-lose. And so as society goes from voluntary to violent, then progress slows and stalls and then begins to decay. And so it's not society as a whole or nations as a whole. It's not like everybody just collectively makes all of these decisions. It's that people want to use violence because they cannot negotiate for what they want. They want to use violence because they cannot find win-win negotiations. And in general, people use violence because they grew up with win-lose negotiations. Do it or else, from their parents or their priests or their teachers and so on. So as violence displaces voluntarism, society decays and begins to collapse. And so that is almost all of it is driven by the state. I just did a podcast, I don't know if it's out yet, about does the government deal with murder? Because people are saying, well, how would you deal with murderers in a free society, which presupposes the governments are dealing with murderers in the here and now, which they're not. They're actually encouraging them and importing them. So I would say that look at every single interaction. This is why I was starting with this ICE shooting from early this morning. You look at every interaction and say, is this based on voluntarism? Is this based on violence? And the more that you look at society and see that it's based on violence, the more society will decay. And eventually society either collapses into totalitarianism, in other words, violence wins, or we identify what's happening in terms of violence and we find a way to turn it around or turn it back, if that makes sense. But really, those are the only two choices.
That does make sense in a sense, right? So, I mean, that woman didn't want to voluntarily stop, right? She just decided, I'm not going to obey the law because I don't believe in the law. Like that itself is a massive breakdown in like our cohesion.
Well, and
like,
that would be the result of a lot of propaganda, and the propaganda is the cops are all tyrants, the Trump tards are fascists and Nazis, and I'm a heroic rebel against the evil dictatorship, and just massive amounts of propaganda. And the purpose of propaganda is to do two things. One is to decay your will and your virtue, and two is to have you make bad decisions in that moment when your decisions most count. And so she, having filled her head for years with leftist propaganda, I assume, and I don't know, she's dead, right? So we'll find out her history, but I would guess, having filled her ears for years, everybody's a leftist. Oh, they're Nazis are fascists, and ICE is totalitarian, and Trump is a fascist who's going to strip you of your freedoms and force you to into some Handmaid's Tale fertility festival or something like that. And so she views the police as, totalitarian stormtroopers. She's the heroic rebel, and she just, because of all of that propaganda, she hits the gas in a moment of panic. These things don't come out of nowhere. People just don't act. I'm not saying you're saying that they do, but people don't just act randomly and say, oh, I'm going to hit the gas. That's the result of years and years and years of propaganda so that people make absolutely terrible decisions in that moment. And now they have a martyr and they can, like, so it just feeds on itself, right?
Right. So this is what I'm saying is like this concept of nations either expand or contract. Realistically, like a lot of this left wing propaganda, I think, is coming from Axis powers. You'll see them pick up the flag of our enemy like 100% of the time. You'll see them, advocate for sterilization and abortion, killing their own young. Like it's all about shrinking our general populace and reducing our power globally.
Well, no,
and
not
everything
the
else.
general populace, the white
I mean,
populace.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, not the
exactly.
general. They're fine with the non-white population increasing like crazy, but it's just they don't, because the white middle class is the traditional enemy of communism. White Christian middle class, the bourgeoisie, and this is why Marx hated the bourgeoisie more than anything. The sort of small factory and shop owners. Big corporations love the government because they can control it, and poor people love the government because they get free stuff. But the people who get kind of squeezed in the middle and are traditionally opposed to big government are the particularly white Christian bourgeois middle class, which is why they sort of have to be destroyed. That's really the last 80 years of policy.
Yeah. I mean, I've only been around since like the 90s. So I've only seen like in the last 35 years ish, basically, it's just been a constant onslaught. It's like, China will acquire 10% of Reddit and suddenly all the right wingers get banned. And all you hear is like, fuck Trump and fuck any policy that like benefits the United States effectively. And, they make these convoluted emotional arguments. But like you said, it's just like a wall of propaganda where they're like insidiously creating like a new religion within our own state. Like this faith that I'm the good guy protecting these underdogs, these poor pit bulls in my country or whatever it is. It's like it seems like as China's gotten wealthier and wealthier, this sort of propagandistic wave has gotten stronger and stronger. Like perhaps they paid into the legacy media who was losing viewership to the internet where people could discuss ideas openly. And then, maybe they got acquired a little bit and, a couple stories here and there. Hey, tilt it in my favor. Hey, make the emotional sway to like, for instance, like we bungled allying with Russia. That would have walled China in. We could have had all that territory allied with us, not selling them oil. We could have had Venezuela much earlier. We sat on, oh, well, I guess we can't do anything about those reserves that we discovered and built on. For 25 years, we did nothing. And now, now they've like sort of grown because of that. And it's like half the population is sort of being swayed into deliberately sabotaging the United States' international interests.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean, it's all done through the lens of hard communism, right? So the communists, and McCarthy was completely right, even more right than he knew, which we know from the Venona releases of the encrypted KGB cables in the 90s. So you just have to look at it that communists are running the U.S. government, and not just the U.S. government, but elsewhere in the West. And if you look at it through that lens, then everything makes perfect sense. It means ally with Russia. The end result of the war in the Second World War was supposed to liberate Poland, ended up handing it over, and half a dozen or a dozen other countries to the Soviets, creating the Eastern Bloc and bringing the Iron Curtain down across Europe. So they wanted to do that. They handed over everything to Russia, which they didn't have to do because they had the bomb, so they could have just said, no, back off, or we're going to bomb. And so they handed over massive amounts of the world to Russia under communism, and then they fumbled and handed over China to communism, and of course to Cuba and North Vietnam and Cambodia and other places. And then they would ship a whole bunch, like Russia was, you got to ship food to Russia. The Russians don't want to go hungry, so they were just feeding all that sort of stuff up. The media in the West did straight up KGB propaganda in these sort of anti-nuclear war films, Threads, and The Day After and things like that, straight up funded by the KGB, the environmental movement and so on, a lot of it funded by communism to cripple the productivity of the West. And then the moment that Russia turned into a nationalistic Christian country, it becomes the great Satan and the great enemy, because Christianity is the natural enemy of communism for various reasons that are probably a little too controversial to get into at the moment. So if you just look at the lens of like, well, what's good for communism is considered foreign policy that's beneficial, and what's bad for communism. So, I mean, if the communists love China, which they do, then they want to drive Russia into the arms of China as an ally, because that way Russia can, if Russia's in the Western orbit, then it would not be supplying and teaming up with China, which is, of course, one of the great communist superpower that's left. So that's just how to look at the world, is that if it's good for communism, it's promoted. If it is bad for communism, it's opposed. And so Christianity is opposed, white males are opposed, free speech is opposed, and all that is positive to communism. Like literally demoralization is key to communism, right? So they'll say, oh, you're on stolen land. And it's like communism literally stole a third of the entire fucking planet and murdered well over 100 million people. And yet smallpox blankets from 400 years ago are apparently the only big issue when it comes to imperialism. So, I mean, communism is still taking over massive sections of the world by force. And so the idea that you're on stolen land only applies to Canadians and Americans, I mean, it's just unbelievably ridiculous.
Yeah, I hear you. I have a contention, though. I think China's like more pragmatic in its like insane government force, right? So it's not necessarily communist anymore. It's just like a shitty place to live where you do what you're told.
Well, there is that.
every day.
China can't last because of they can't reverse the one-child policy. So something's going to have to change that way. And of course, there's things you can't talk about in China, but there's things you can't talk about in the West either. So I'm not really, I used to be much more like West freedom, China not freedom. I'm much less that way these days. So certainly since I did my face full of tear gas at the protests in Hong Kong in 2019. But I have less criticism of China now, having seen the absolute rending velociraptor teeth and jaws of the Western censorship machinery that took me down 5.5 years ago. So, all right. So, I'm going to stop here because I do actually have to drop past this other placey spacey area. Do I still have it pasted here? Yes. Okay. So I'm going to go and drop on this word war chat. And I really do appreciate your time. freedomain.com/donate. Lots of love, my friends. I will talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.